All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order here because we have a
Where's
quorum.
everybody? Is everybody,
No. we're
Is anybody
missing
not
one. We
coming?
need one more.
Yeah, we might as well get started anyway.
who's not coming?
Well, if we get to a decision, we will, hopefully somebody will be here, and if nobody shows up, then we won't be able to vote, so might as well get started.
Well, it's only 6:35, so someone should come.
Emery's stuck in traffic. Jim Petrus can't make it. Joe Rakowski can't make it.
Andrea?
I heard from Andrea, she was gonna try to make it. She asked me when and where and all that kind of stuff.
Well, why don't we go ahead?
John said he couldn't make it.
Wow.
Yeah.
John? I think he was last one too, but other than that. Okay.
All right, so, we'll just go straight to Collier's construction update.
Okay. Thank you. It's all good. Things are moving right along. If you're driving by, you can see it's taking shape.
That's good.
Just as far as site work, more of the underground storm infiltration systems have been going in, the underground manholes and piping. You may have noticed that they've kind of cleaned up in front of the, closer to the road, where there was just kind of a big fenced-in area. It was kind of their stockpile, storage area. So now they've kind of laid out the parking and drive in that location, so it's kind of taking shape of where the extent of the paved space in that front area is gonna be. Sidewalk installation has been ongoing, so between the two buildings, there's, kind of the north side of the new stage and gym area. There's a walkway that gets into another access into the building, and so that sidewalk area has been paved. The canopies have gone in. The generator pad and those areas of kind of to the west of the cafeteria. There was a lot that happened there over the summer, and so that area has been cleaned up and getting ready for the different equipment that's going to be going in. And on that south canopy in front of the building, that's getting prepped for sidewalks. So sidewalks are continuing. Paving is actually going to be, I think, on the 27th. So blacktop in the new front parking area will go down the 27th, weather permitting. Hopefully, weather's been really warm, knock on wood, that continues to be the case. And if it's raining a little bit, that's okay, but as long as it's warm. Inside the building, so the building addition portion, I think the last month when we were talking, not all the slabs have been poured. I don't know that the stage had been poured or the ramp going to the stage in the gym area, so that's been done. The mechanical systems are going in, the boilers are set on their pads, and they're starting to be put together. They're sectional, so they're kind of putting all those sections together. The rooftop units have now gone on up onto the roof. The framing, all the light gauge metal stud framing is pretty much complete, and so sheetrock is going in, and rough piping, mechanical, plumbing, rough electrical. They put in a lot of the piping, and then are now going back and putting in the isolation valves and some of the detailed work. So that's moving right along. The brick veneer and is coming around the front side of the building. So that's good. So the air and vapor barrier, the spray insulation has been going in, and so from the street you'll see that there's that brick had been installed on the north side of the addition, but now you'll see it going in on the south side. You'll see the windows going in on that side as well. There's actually window testing, air and water testing that's going to take place tomorrow morning. So the addition work is moving along. Fontaine had some, typical coordination issues. We have a lot of areas where the ceiling, it's open to the structure, so you try and hide as much as you can in the areas where you do have drop ceiling or soffits. So just trying to fit in all your piping and ductwork and everything in those areas, it can be tight. So there's a coordination effort to get around the steel and to do that kind of stuff. So that's been ongoing, but Fontaine's moving right along. The fire pump house, there was a lot of underground plumbing and electrical and so forth, so that's all been completed. The walls are starting to come up out of the ground, so that's moving right along as well. Looking ahead, what's going to be coming up is the electrical, so the transformer and the feeders. You know, we're expecting that, say in a month or so, maybe the next time we meet, if we haven't energized the service, we'll be close to it in a month's time. But additional sidewalk and curbing, and like I said, the paving is going to go in at the end of the month. The fire pump house construction will continue. And within the addition, the window installation will be ongoing, the skylight installation. The curbing for the skylights has gone in, and that had been done, but they never cut through the metal deck and the roof, just because it's easier, less penetrations, less chance that somebody will fall through one of those openings. But now that they're at a point where the skylights are going in and they'll cut through the deck, so you'll get light into the building. And again, more of those rough mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, more sheetrock. They'll probably get some temporary heat in there as it starts to get a little cooler so that they can dry the materials that they're putting in. Some finished work has started, so a mock-up of the tile pattern in the toilet rooms has started. So once that gets approved, that'll continue in the other areas. So just a lot of those finish systems and finishes, colors and tile and flooring over the next few months. In our meeting today, they were talking about really shooting for to get all the ceilings in December, get the finishes in, and then flooring, get the finished flooring in January, so to be ready for beginning of February to get ready for the move. So we'll be getting the servers and some of that equipment starting January 1st to get into the building, so that stuff is all programmed and ready to go for the February occupancy of the addition. So that's it. Any questions about what's been going on or what's coming up? We're still shooting for the end of November for the pump house.
In your schedule here, again, on January, all stuff, is there a time schedule on here for the fire chief, the building inspector, and all those guys?
Sure.
All feel comfortable?
At this point, yeah, the building inspector has been setting out some requests to see some of the information. He's having some trouble getting online to see the online documentation, but he's reviewing it. They sent out a new password and login information to him, so he's going to be reviewing that as he goes. We've talked about setting up a separate kind of checklist for Department of Environmental Protection for the water service, because that can get complicated, a lot of different check boxes you have to have done. So in a coordination with the operator, Whitewater, who operates your current well system, in coordination with Sanborn Head, who's the engineer, and Fontaine, the contractor, they're all going to be getting together and making sure that they're on track for that. And we'll just keep the authorities that have in jurisdiction, the fire marshal, the building official in the loop, and bring them in as often as we can, or and as early as we can, to sign off on things and make sure things are, where they need to be. But for right now, we think they're in good shape.
Anything can go astray, it's always in the plan.
Oh yeah, there's always something that they add at the end that they didn't visualize or couldn't really think about until the building is up and they're walking around, and might want to add some exit signs is very common, or or do something, you know, egress issues or something, but, yeah, they're involved, so hopefully, nothing major comes up.
The final testing on the well for the PFAS testing?
Yeah, that's gonna be scheduled. I don't know offhand when that's gonna happen.
Okay.
But, that had been, we received a proposal from, was it from Sanborn? From Sanborn
Sanborn,
Head to do that. It's a special test due to the proximity of the, Air Force Base. There's a chemical that's used, a foam that to put out fires, jet fuel, and so they just wanna make sure that no chemicals got into the water supply. So before we open up this new well, there's nothing of that in the current well. Well, before it goes online, they just have to do that added test. So whatever the DEP wants, you know, we'll go through that process. Yes, exactly.
Remember you and I walked out there, those issues I have not been taken care of yet.
Okay, we'll talk about that with them. 'Cause I think, the site contractor's gonna be laying all that pipe, to the well house, so they'll be making those connections shortly.
But those holes though are still there.
Yeah, and they will be, until they cut it down lower. What it was is when the well casing was put in, they tried to drill through, and I don't know if they broke a bit or something, so looks like they attempted to drill through the casing and didn't quite make it, and they shifted over and a little bit further down and drilled through, so it doesn't go all the way through, but, there was just a question of this extra holes or an extra. But what's gonna happen is when they left this casing high up out of the ground, and when the well is actually activated, that'll be cut down a little bit lower to the ground, and those holes will be cut right off. So it'll be a new connection. So that's kind of what's been going on, and what's anticipated. You know, the next big milestone, well, obviously the February move, but, really probably energizing power. The building is watertight, and, probably getting the, electrical service, into the building. We can't take the electrical service offline that currently feeds the existing building, just because of a power phasing issue, so that'll stay in that pole in the driveway that's kind of there temporarily, or will eventually be removed, but that probably won't happen until February, once they transition into the new building.
Do you have a date on the boilers that we're gonna turn the new boilers on?
Probably December, you know, once we get the power, and,
Want to be running both boilers?
well, the contractor will be running them to test and to get them, make sure they're up and running.
You know, if we're moving in February, is that when the oil boilers are being shut off?
Yeah, probably. They may run them for a few weeks, because they're gonna start with major work in the beginning. They'll kind of do some make safe, but the abatement in the boiler room will probably be one of the first things they wanna do.
Okay. So does that mean the controls will be online for the new building when those boilers are running?
Yes.
And the old controls are gonna be still up and running, or we're gonna shut those down?
You're gonna shut those down.
Okay. So I'll just run boilers on boiler temp itself, not, do I have to run a schedule and everything for everybody working in there? Or we just keep boilers running at a certain temperature?
In the addition, you'd probably have a new schedule.
No, I'm talking about the old,
While they're running, yeah, you probably just do it on a temp,
just doing a temp, boiler temp?
and the temp would be 45 degrees or 50 degrees.
Yeah,
Or,
120 for boiler temp.
for the
Okay.
boiler
For
temperature
boiler
itself.
temp and then setting.
But I'm not sure how much longer those are gonna be running. You know, they may have to provide their own temporary heat.
Right,
That's,
right.
yeah. Because we're swapping over, we're gonna be using the oil tank, so how are you gonna do that? Is there a line going to the new boilers already?
Yes.
So, okay, so we're gonna be feeding off of one tank while they're both running for a certain period of time? Okay.
But again, I don't think they're gonna be running for very long, because I
Okay.
think they're gonna wanna do that abatement within that boiler room is one of the first things they do.
Okay, and what about, fire alarm and security, which are not really working that well. Security is not working at all,
For the existing building?
yeah. There's just wires that have been cut, and we can't really secure the building. So, I mean, February, it all gets, boom, we don't have to take care of that anymore.
No, the windows will be coming out, they'll be,
Okay. Yeah, what about the fire alarm?
for the existing building, that'll
Yeah.
come offline too.
That's gonna come offline, okay. And the fire department's gonna be aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. These are just things they've been asking me, coming up.
Yeah, it's probably worthwhile that we have Fontaine do a sit-down with them again as we're getting closer, to answer some of those questions. I'd rather not have them wondering what it's gonna be and asking you and asking other people who don't have that direct information. It would be better for them to reach out to the project manager for Fontaine and get that information directly. Because if it's out for any amount of time, he could be getting frustrated that he doesn't have the answers.
Right,
And
well, I have a lot of things, I have phone calls, I mean, I get phone calls all the time regarding the fire system, that's not operating in the security system, that's not operating correctly. So I just tell them that we're all good, and I go over there, and if there's alarms or whatever, I clear them. But it's just not up to 100% at the moment.
within the existing building.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, John, we should probably sit down with Fontaine
Yep.
and go through all this.
Okay, and just one more thing, I don't know if you know about this, the trash, pad for the trash containers, was that ever figured out where they're gonna be and how big they're gonna be?
It's in the works,
Okay.
because it's not, what was designed and what they're looking at now are a little bit different based on conversations.
Right,
About what's gonna,
because I have two there now, but we're bringing in a whole nother school, so I'm gonna need at least two trash and one recycle. And what was spec'd wouldn't fit,
it's kinda like a 10-foot by 40-foot.
and that's what it went to now, right?
Yes.
But that's not what it was before, or am I?
No,
don't
I
know what it
think
was
it was
before,
maybe
yeah.
30 feet.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's significantly bigger now.
It went a little bit, okay.
And it has a fencing around.
Right, because yeah, what I needed wasn't just gonna fit in there. Okay. Controls. That's all I have, sorry.
Okay, no, that's good. Yeah, I mean, we had our meeting today, and, some of these items I would have been bringing up with them to talk about security, fire alarm. We knew about the trash stuff, but questions about logistics of how is the transition actually gonna happen. There's some things that I'm sure that aren't gonna be really thought of until they really start getting into it, so the sooner that those questions are asked, the sooner they'll.
Pneumatics in the whole school, I mean, once you've got a pneumatic line, then it's done,
You're turning it off.
That's,
Yeah.
okay, gotta make
But
sure.
short of you sitting in on those Thursday meetings, probably it does make sense to get together with Fontaine sooner. But anytime you have questions and you're not gonna be at the meeting, just let Tim know and he
Yeah.
can bring it to the
Yeah,
table.
I missed this week, it was a
Okay,
bad week,
yeah,
but
sure.
next week I'll plan on being there.
Okay. Any other questions or anything? All right, to get into the finances, I have the same format of financial summary. Again, this is the budget with all the various different line items, but to go down to the bottom line, the project funding agreement was $34,208,975. You'll recall that the bids came in favorably, so there is an amendment that's the MSBA is going to process. They've sent off a draft of that based on the actual bid numbers, because this budget is column A was based on estimates back in 2016. So that'll change based on the actual numbers. But the bottom line is we've paid out to date just over $10 million of the $28 million that has been contracted for to date. Obviously, we haven't contracted for the whole 34, and we won't because our PFA is going to be going down. But we're coming up on that 50% mark. We're nearing that, and that's kind of a threshold where we have to submit evaluations of the contractors, all the various filed sub-bidders, the general contractor, to DCAM, and then we copy the contractors on those evaluations. So that's something that's the MSBA requires in order to close out the project, that we do that at the 50% mark and then at the final completion of the project. Otherwise, they won't give you your final 5% reimbursement. So
And you're doing that? Who's doing that?
I put it together, and I sign it, but Chris would probably have to, the awarding authority has to also sign it. But really, at this point, we haven't had any, bad apples on the job as far as any of the contractors, so I can't imagine giving anybody maybe a point here or there because paperwork didn't come in quickly enough, but I can't imagine giving anybody a failing score on anything. I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah,
anything. Yeah, so everything is, so far so good. Keep our fingers crossed. But we're on budget. Things have been tracking well. We're moving along. We're nearing, if you think about it, that it's a 50-50 split between the addition and the renovation of the existing building. We're tracking financially along those same lines. So we're coming up on that 50% of payment of the contract.
I assume if the SBA is going to reduce to 34,000, they're also going to reduce the contingency the same amount?
Not the same amount, the percentage.
Percentage-wise.
Yeah. We were just looking at how that impacted the net to the town, what's the, or not the net to the town, but what the maximum grant is that the town could expect to get if everything was reimbursable and you were able to have enough expenses to get the full amount. So when it was 34,208,000, your maximum facilities grant from the MSBA was going to be 16,867,000. And now that we're going to be down at 32 million roughly for the total project cost, your facilities grant is going to go down to 16,650. So it's going to drop a couple $100,000, which really isn't bad considering you're dropping $2 million in your total cost. So it just kind of shows that what we had been carrying is still staying reimbursable.
The contingency could still be around $1 million.
Oh, it definitely will be.
1.3 million, even as it drops, it might take a little bit. And we're not going to spend it all.
No. Yeah, so you're right. It would be right around $1 million, a little over. I mean, so far, we've only processed about $7,000 in changes to date. We have a lot that we're kind of waiting to package into a change order, but if you think we're nearing the 50% mark of the project, we have a very, very low percentage of change orders to date. Now, granted, this is the new addition, which you expect to have less change orders than you would on a renovation, so I don't want to jinx it.
You should have a change order total before we leave the addition, before we go into the,
Oh, I have a total every day. I mean,
you could present to the committee where we are before we go into the renovations.
yeah, why don't I plan on doing that next month?
Just so the committee has an idea where we're going, before we go into the addition. We know there could be changes in there. I think everyone should be impressed to know where you're at.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
There is one change that I wanted to bring up to the committee tonight, and maybe now's the time to do it. There's, in the gym, there's 6 basketball hoops, 2 on either end of, the main court, but then you have half court, 2 half courts, so you have 4 on the sides. So on those 4 side basketball hoops. There was a proposal that was, came forward to add height adjustment to those so that the hoop could be at an 8-foot length, height instead of the traditional 10-foot. Being an elementary school, some of those kids, it makes it more functional for gym class for this age group, as well as any kind of off hours rec league for little kids. So the cost of that, to add those four, is $4,611. Sure. Any questions? Or I guess you do the motion, then you do.
10-foot one is not adjustable to multiple heights?
No,
I think that's a
typically they're
smart
not.
idea.
Typically, no. Why aren't you doing the two ends? Instead of the four?
Well,
If you're playing a full court game, you're probably not the littlest kids, it's probably older
But
kids.
it's not a full court gym. You can't play high school sports in that gym.
We should play adult basketball every night of the week.
You know, we
or
can,
like CYO basketball.
we could certainly add that to it if you
No, I was
guys
just
thought it
asking
was.
if they're playing like a full court. I mean, it's not a high school gym, so it is for small kids already. Why wouldn't you just do the ends if they are having games?
I guess we were thinking about it more as for a,
No.
I guess we were thinking about it more for the gym class where you have
Right.
two
Okay.
Using the
separate,
short.
Okay.
shorter
Shorter.
teaching stations and, you know.
There could be some maintenance moving these things up and down.
How are you gonna ensure the kids aren't gonna
It's
be
a
moving it
key-
up and down?
No,
Oh,
no,
it's
it's
a key program?
power.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right, Power.
Yeah, it's,
I think it's a good idea.
just a little key thing on the wall.
Yep,
Like we have now
Yeah.
for, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you probably want to second it.
I'll second
I
it.
made it, so this,
I'll second it.
All right, any more discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Yeah, so that's really the only one that we have to vote on tonight. We've talked to you guys about some others that, again, working with John on the programming of controls, that the credit we received, we just have to package that into a change order, so that hopefully we'll have that for next month, so that we can tell you exactly where we are at that point. But even if they haven't been incorporated into a change order, we can tell you at least what's pending, so that you can have an update on where we stand with contingency.
Can I get a walkthrough?
Whenever you like. Because actually, John, we do want to walk through with you, because there's actually one change that you might have some input in. When we were walking through the other day and looking at what's been installed, and from an operations standpoint, it might be good to add some additional water valves.
I saw.
You can valve off the water to a bathroom bay, you know, male and female, and then a single person bathroom, and you can valve off each individual fixture. But if
If a pipe breaks from.
a pipe breaks, you're shutting down all three
Right.
to work on one. So to add, you know,
This would be one.
couple
fixture.
$1,000s in valves,
Is not a, right.
it's just now would be a good time to do
Because
that.
those ball valves, after years, they just, you can't turn them in.
Yeah, it's just adds flexibility for maintenance down the road. It's, you know, we can walk through and take a look at areas where it makes sense.
So one ball valve would shut off one classroom, or would it be like a bunch?
Well, right now, I was specifically looking at the bathroom bays. So for instance, those 3 bathrooms off the lobby,
So they have to do work in there, it'll shut down.
you'd shut down the hot water and the cold water. And it would shut it down to all 3, unless you're working on one specific fixture. So I think it's probably short money, and it provides flexibility where if you had to shut down just the men's room or just the women's room, you'd have that ability to do that. So there are things like that that just, you know, as you're in there and the ceilings are still open, and if it makes sense operationally, and
Well, it does if you have a breakage, then, you know, I can isolate one room versus 3 rooms without being,
yeah.
without water.
And we're not talking about a lot of money, but now would be the time to make those kind of changes. Just as Jim had said last week, if there's stuff, now would be the time to, you know, if there's things that make sense to do. Let's do it. So I'll have more information next month on where we stand. Any other questions about where we stand financially on the project, or?
Sure, well, that's kind of a good segue into FF&E. We wanted to update you on where we are with that. So the bids did come in last week. Stefora, our FF&E consultant, has been doing, all the work in terms of the bid packages for the furniture and equipment, as well as preparing or soliciting quotes from the items that we're gonna be purchasing from the state contract and from the cooperative agreement, the Mass Higher Educational Cooperative. So they now have the whole picture together. Unfortunately, we still are beyond our $516,000 allotment from the MSBA. And just a reminder, the MSBA likes to tell districts that it's a contribution. It's generally not enough to cover everything. And that is certainly what's been borne out with these numbers. So at this point, we do need to start placing orders early November in order to hold the pricing, but also get those items that we need for February. Right now, we're looking to be about 30,000 over the 516,000 allotment, the number that we were working towards. We still have some work to do. We had a great meeting yesterday with Bill and John, and Jim Petrus was there. And, had some good conversations back and forth about what things we could, kind of cut back on, what things needed further investigation. So there's still a bit more work to do in terms of, figuring out what exactly we need. However, we are assuredly not gonna get everything we're saying we need for the 516,000. I think tonight what we'd like to do is talk to this group about, can we work beyond that number, knowing what we know now? Certainly we'll want some kind of authorization to place the purchase orders and get the furniture ordered. Can we work beyond the $516,000 to kind of keep things moving?
Yeah, if I could jump in, the 516,000 is MSBA, just so that they can kind of make it equal from district to district. They say this is what we'll participate in per student. So it goes on a per student basis for furniture and technology. And they're not saying that that's going to be enough to outfit a building, but they're just saying this is how we're going to make it even from district to district. So, will the MSBA change this number? And, they periodically review and they'll make some changes. And this might be one that they do on future jobs, but unfortunately we're locked in. We really put the challenge to Stefora to work within that budget of $516,000, and they did really pretty well. The breakdown that came in at $546,000, so roughly $30,000 over the budget, but $450,000 was on the furniture, and I think that's, and then about $90,000 in the equipment. So most of the dollars would be going into the furniture that you're going to have in the building for many years to come. The $100,000 in equipment is really pretty sparse when compared to other programs or other districts that we've seen. And I think that's, Bill working with his staff and Cheryl working with the staff and John to, what do you need? What do you want, but what do you really need? Mm-hmm. So musical equipment, instruments can get expensive, but I think that it's pretty, the numbers are pretty good. We have been kind of working where once the numbers came in and we saw what some things cost, we said, well, maybe there's another way to deal with this, and let's see if we can't make a change. Maybe we can take the shelving and not use, library book shelving, but we could use kind of an open rack shelving and look for ways that we could kind of, maximize how far these dollars could go.
Is there a place you can go to get gently used stuff? Like, I know for the library, they didn't buy everything new. I wanna say there was a swap, or there's a place you can go.
Well, I think we also should, dial back a little bit in history and remember that we are reusing a certain amount of furniture in the building.
Oh, yeah.
So we are reusing 3 classrooms worth of student desks and chairs, and we're reusing 6 of the cafeteria tables. So that was certainly something that was given, to us, from the get-go, and working with Jim, who has, pretty intimate knowledge of what was, purchased and what is still viable. So I think we're really looking at, when you bid the packages and you buy off a state contract, you are getting it at the lowest cost. If you were to do something else at this point, that would be a different process. You'd kind of be starting over again. So, I think that, again, there's more we could do. I think what we need direction from, this group on is where do we need to be aiming? If we still need to make the 516, then we're gonna have to forego a lot of equipment and probably look at some of the furniture. I know that Bill was gonna talk to the librarian, double check, quantity of volumes that we're going to be taking over. So library shelving is, upwards of $35,000. So that's a big chunk. And that was something that I know that you were going to look at. So again, there's still work to be done, but there's only so much work we can do.
30,000 doesn't scare me, but in the $30,000, is there items in that 30,000 that needs to be purchased to open in February?
Yeah, we need to purchase, here's the other trick. We kind of need to purchase all the furniture at the same time to hold the numbers. And I know John needs his custodial equipment, like his scrubber that's going to take care of linoleum floors. Right now he's working with mops and buckets. So, in some senses, no, because most of the furniture isn't coming till August. Really, it's just a few pieces that are coming in February. It's more placing the order so that we can get the things in February as we anticipate, and also holding those numbers.
Lock in the price, yeah.
Locking in the price with the vendors.
But there are equipment, that isn't necessarily maybe tied to a February opening.
Right.
Now, in addition to this, there is a list of alternate items. So there's been discussion about, what to do for performances where you would want more seating. And, our understanding is the town purchased some chairs, and could those be used for that? Or there was some pricing that had been sought for some additional stacking chairs, for some additional music furniture, for some additional classroom teacher chairs, reading chairs, or some additional furniture for the office area. But that's kind of over and above the $30,000 to $40,000 for the base building, if you will.
Would this be the last time you come? You're doing the
I hope
furnishing.
so, yeah.
You're telling us now that you've got $516,000 in bids.
Yeah.
Do your company?
More, but,
We
yeah.
should be asking the subcommittee, and put Jim's not here.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the subcommittee should come back and tell us, is the 516 it?
Well, what we did the other day was go through and talk about ways to kind of stretch those dollars. So reducing, going back to the librarian and talking, because kind of the trend is more electronic volumes and less hard volumes, and do we need to purchase as much shelf space as we originally had anticipated? And then in the, I forget the room, what you call that room, where the literacy closet, instead of having library style shelving, to have kind of open shelving, because a lot of these books are in plastic bins that's really all you need. And it's certainly, industrial strength and fine, but it's a little different style, but it's less expensive, so
Yeah,
we're
but
looking
are
at
they in-
ways.
Are they in plastic bins because they don't have the proper shelving?
No, because you
Class.
think about it, these
They're
little.
class.
Classroom
Oh.
libraries with
Oh,
little
okay.
paperbacks.
So, yeah, it's a box of glass set to put it in.
I don't think we should cheapen this thing.
No, I'm not saying it's cheapening it, I'm just saying that it's what's functional for the need.
Let's not come to alternates, which are not good for us.
Well, no, I agree,
$30,000 is not a huge number, but I just think we need to know what we're getting for the 30,000. I don't think we should go in and change the bookshelves and stuff in the library, and we're gonna make this building, it's gotta be here 50 years, and that includes the furniture.
understood.
And that was a big part of our conversation. That was exactly, and that's why a lot of what was one of the things we talked about?
Well,
We said
there was categories of furnishings, and one, what was chosen, it was the classroom furniture,
The teacher
tables
desks, I think.
and things. And the low bid was a substitute, it wasn't the specified item. But it was lower, but Stafford didn't go with that because, they didn't feel that it had the quality, same quality. And so they went with the specified item. And I think that's what we said, it's like, look, we need this stuff to be, appropriate for its use, that's gonna hold up, we can't be looking to go back for new tables in 6 years. But if we don't need something, then let's go back and talk to the staff and.
I don't know what to tell you.
But your question is, we do the 30,000 now, you're gonna come back for another 36 months from now, or 3 months from now, or a month from now, or whatever.
If it was a contract, I'd say yes, I know about the furniture people.
But I think that's what the question is. You authorize the 30, and then all of a sudden you come back and say you need another 20, or you need another whatever.
My
and
heart
I just-
says, my heart and head says we gotta authorize them because we need this stuff in February.
And I agree with you, I'm 30,000 on that isn't bad.
I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, I understand that,
What
this
is-
isn't.
What is the bid price that came in? 546 what?
367.95.
But then there's it's the bid and the state contract, the quotes. So it's actually, she updated that a little bit today based on, it's closer to 460, based on our meeting yesterday.
Wait, you're talking about this, I'm talking about this.
Oh, the total,
546.
sorry.
Yeah, the total.
The total.
The total is what?
516, you said.
No, that's our
Five-
budget, 546, 367.95.
Helen,
So,
you said that you would like to go ahead and purchase these things so you can lock the price down. So it means, to me at least, we know what we're getting for that price. If there is any possibility that you may come back for additional funds, what would that be for that you may not have thought now that will require you or cause you to come back?
I don't foresee any, but things like the alternates that we had definitely taken out. So the things that Tim just talked about.
Stack chairs.
If the town decides that it's important to buy more stack chairs to have for the gym, for performances in the gym, that's like 20 grand. But we're saying, no, we're not. What the 546
Well, yeah.
includes is the items that we have deemed through working with the district over many months that are really needed. Then there's the stuff that we'd also like to have. Those are in the alternates category. So no, at this point, I don't think, after months of working through this, that there's some big thing out there that we're gonna, come up with, that we're gonna say, you need this. It's gonna be something you guys tell us maybe you
So
need.
even though
but
there is
not
no
us.
guarantee, probably we should go ahead with this motion for 546.
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to authorize the purchase of FF&E for the amount of 546,367.
I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay,
Based on this number, the 540, and I agree that I'm certainly gonna support it, is this furniture subcommittee gonna come back and talk to us about these alternates, or, is it that important that we need to talk to them about it anymore? How?
I think it
what's
is.
gonna get to that point?
I think a lot of that comes down to, it comes down to what we talked about was what is the town looking at as well for the use of that building. Are we looking at town meetings at that building? What are we looking at, you know? And I think that depends on that. Part of the idea of the gym was that we had the bleachers in there, and we can pull the bleachers out and there's seating in the bleachers, but it depends. Are there gonna be town meetings? What other functions are we gonna use? And are people gonna wanna rent that facility where we would have those chairs and be able to make some money off of that as well, for dance recitals and things like that? Because now you have a bigger stage and you have a better opportunity for things like that. So that's included in there, and I think a couple of the other things were music and music supplies, and I can't remember off the top of my
Well,
head.
it was some additional office furniture. It was for teacher reading chairs, which I don't know if I'd necessarily support that, but it was just
You got a round number what the alternates would cost?
Yep, we can add those up. So it's
35, say $40,000.
20, 30.
I'm not gonna prove it now, I just wanna put it in my
I-
mind.
Yeah, you
well,
wanna know it's out there,
Jim, I
so-
think that these could be,
Put it in my mind.
if down the road, they wanted to petition and you were in a good position financially on the project, you could maybe think
Right.
about it then. I don't think you need to purchase this now.
Yep,
I would say on this list of this 546, again, the bulk of it is the furniture that we need to order. Some of the equipment, we were sitting with John, and John told us, hey, I think I might be able to get these recycling bins for free, there's this program. And so we're saying, okay, let's take that savings and let's reduce it, and we can put it into this. So we think that based on what Stafor has told us, what we've talked to the building, the subcommittee about, we think that we can get everything we need within this dollar value.
Alright, good, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Alright, motion carries unanimously.
thank you. That's great. So on a lighter note, the technology process is only slightly behind FF&E. I'm told we are still within budget on that one, and that's the same number, 516. Scott Goodrich with Advance is our consultant on that. He's been working in great detail with David Lukaskevitz. At this point, he's working on proposals. The main thing we need to get out soon, and we will probably have this before you in the November meeting, is he'll need to get the server purchased, because that's gotta go in February. So that is their focus right now. And then,
Actually, I think we're bringing it in sooner, right?
Yes.
We're gonna bring it online at the high school, so David could start getting things up and running and getting everything ready. Because when we actually make that physical move, that server has to be completely running, is what I understood.
We plan on installing that into
January. Yeah.
into the building in January.
right, it's gotta be up and running.
We were talking about that
Absolutely.
today at our job meeting, just that the data closet will be ready to receive that, meaning that they're not still doing dirty construction work. It's clean, it's has
In order to
power.
do that,
and-
he needs to have that, you know, we were talking December, I think, right, or so,
He's not gonna have it in December.
or early January, because there's a lot of programming that
January
has
is
to
what
take
we're
place.
hoping for. I mean, the room's gotta be ready, and absolutely. That is something that he's working with Scott on, in terms of how it gets delivered and how much work can be done up front by the vendor, and working in detail with him. So,
One of the things we understood was that for all of the computers to function, when we open the doors on that day after February vacation, they all need to be programmed onto that new server ahead of time and things like that. So it's just all little pieces
Yeah.
that need to come together and make happen, and that's why,
Yeah.
you know, like Kelly said, we'll have that sooner than later and wanna move forward. It's the servers that are the
yeah,
important
the
piece.
server is critical. And then, he's working then on the next piece, which are quotes for everything else, which will come in August, after the furniture goes in. So that'll pick back up, excuse me, in January, in terms of getting the specs done on all of the computers themselves, projectors, et cetera. So it's moving along.
Okay.
Questions on that?
Is there an update on, we have school name on there, I don't know if
actually.
Yeah, so, actually Jim, I saw Jim yesterday at our FF&E
Yeah.
meeting. He handed me the markup. This is, revised based on the markup. I think he was able to talk to most people about their names and where in the list they belong and the spellings, titles, et cetera. If you haven't had a chance to look at this and you're here, go ahead and take a look. But yes, we need the school name.
So we have a meeting
Hand it down
scheduled,
there.
for the advisory committee, for November first, which we will come up with some names, and Cheryl's been doing research behind the scenes on former names that were used in the town, other important things. We've been receiving feedback from community members, we put word out there. The meeting is on November first, and we're gonna make a recommendation to the superintendent after that, of possible names, and then she'll go forward with that from there.
When do you think, based on that timeline, when do you think that process will be finalized?
I would hope we'd bring it for the November 9th.
Okay.
We're not gonna put the plaque up to dedication. We got till next
I'm not so much worried about the plaque, but I'm worried about
Spacing on the
the,
sign and-
the signs, we have submittals that are being held up
Right.
because we don't have the name of the building.
And remember, we have the mounted letters on the face of the building, so they need to know how much blocking to put in, Jim. How many letters we're gonna have.
If you're optimistic you're gonna get this for a Christmas present.
Does the existing plaque have, I can't remember,
should've
does it
remembered.
name
Give to,
superintendent, town administrator, whatever?
Some of it,
Yeah.
it does, yeah.
Well, it wasn't a town administrator.
Right,
it was
right,
just-
right, right.
Right, yeah, superintendent is called out by
Yeah, it was
name.
Frank McInerney was the superintendent,
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very similar style, right?
Similar style, simple,
Hmm.
yeah, that's what we're going for.
Did you get a lot of people coming forward to be in that committee, the name committee?
I got more input from people that can't commit to the committee,
If I can give you input.
but can give us input, and we've been writing those down and considering that and whatnot, so that's good. And we'll reach out one more time, for that as well, and, we did it through the Connected system and through, the local cable channels. And like I said, so I think that we actually have based on other committees and other things that we've tried to do, I think we've had a great response.
So you people make the name, or does it come to us for a vote?
Come to us.
They suggest a name to us. Right.
Can't keep that under the table.
Nice try.
Is that how it works? Oh, okay.
Bill's school.
Nope.
Okay, so you're
Cheryl.
thinking that by the
So-
next
The
SBC
Chris
meeting
Martin
that you
School.
will have a recommendation, is that, okay?
We just worked out the logistics of the date today for the next meeting and what we needed to do. the
So
next-
we're gonna communicate out to people who wanna be on the committee.
Tomorrow. Get to be here
You get
from
an
me.
email.
But, yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay, great.
Anything else before we adjourn? Motion adjourned,
Next meeting date,
November 9th.
is that okay with everyone?
I won't be here.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah, what
that's the
was it?
second Thursday of the month.
yeah, at one point, we shifted, and I put that down because that was, I wasn't sure if we just shifted the 1 month, or we wanted to keep it. Just thinking if November is that last week, and, we start getting closer to Thanksgiving, I don't know if it matters to people, but
Thanksgiving doesn't matter, Christmas matters.
Christmas matters.
On the ninth?
The thing is, as long as we have we're 2 members down.
I mean, if it makes sense that we be further along with the school name, maybe to push it to the,
I think on a being
15th?
polite to Jim Peters, we should make sure he can make it, because he has a strong input on the name of this building.
Yeah, hopefully, well, if he doesn't make it, we may not even have a quorum.
I think he has a strong input on this meeting, I know he's talked to us several times.
No, I have the same one.
Is he on the other committee though?
And I think he needs to.
No, he's not.
I
He's
know
on the
he's
naming
working
committee?
on it, I do, but I think he needs to.
So we wanna make it the 16th?
I just think we need to make sure he can make it. I can make the 16th, I know, I think.
Doesn't matter to me, I really have not much.
I think from the technology standpoint, if you want the information on the cost of the server,
he's not gonna have it till the 16th, so.
Okay, so we'll make it the
16th.
November 16th?
I will.
No, no, no.
Hear that? They changed the date.
November 16th.
So has everybody signed off on any
I'll
initial?
make a motion to adjourn.
Right?
It's better
Second.
than-
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ch-